I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is Genesis Does, and that is my bin of loose cartridges from which I pulled out Battlemaster. Somebody wrote P on it, but it's not P for pal because this game actually works. So maybe P was the first initial of the previous owner? Peter? Phil? Paul? Who knows? But anyway, it's a loose card only. No instruction manual, no box, no nothing, just Battlemaster. So, I guess P could also stand for play. So let's put it in the Analog Mega SG and give it a go, shall we? Let me introduce the game with a few facts about it as you watch this opening footage on the Analog. Battlemaster is a 1990 fantasy action adventure game designed by Mike Simpson and Simon Jones and distributed by Mirrorsoft. The player controls a champion who must battle the forces of evil to conquer 4 kingdoms, unite 4 crowns, and present them to the Watcher in order to restore the world to peace. That's a grandiose plot if I do say so myself. This game came out on the Commodore Amiga, Atari ST, MS-DOS, and the Sega Genesis, but not on any Nintendo platform, not even through Wii Virtual Console, which fits the definition of Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Let's go back to the Wikipedia for just a second. Battlemaster is a squad-based action-adventure game viewed from a top-down isometric perspective. As you can see here, it kind of reminded me of Gauntlet at first, although not with the generating of a monster spawn point or with the keys to pick up or the health items, but definitely that top-down feeling is present just like in Gauntlet. And the fact that you can choose from one of 4 different archetypes, that also seemed to me very Gauntlet-esque, but here's where that comparison breaks down, and I'll go back to the wiki for just a second. After choosing a race, human, elf, dwarf, or orc, and a D&D style class, warrior, merchant, archer, or mage, the player is presented with a map from which destinations are chosen. At each destination, the player may choose to parlay, giving an opportunity to purchase useful items from the destination rather than having to find them, or may enter the destination. At this point, the player enters the area and must defeat a minimum of 75% of the hostile forces in order to proceed. Combat is either close quarters melee using weapons such as swords and clubs, or ranged using arrows and magic. It is possible to recruit up to 4 followers who may be given rudimentary formations, row, column, wedge, positions, front and rear, and basic commands, rally. Defeating enemies and proceeding from an area is the only way to unlock further destinations on the map. Difficulty increases as the player progresses to new areas. And it just increased right there because I fell down a pit and died and had no warning whatsoever. I don't know how I could have saw that coming or avoided it. It just opened up beneath my feet and we all fell, game over. So I decided at that point I would switch to something different. And I chose the Arkwright Morgan Human Warrior. Why not? Let's see if I can do any better with him. Back to Wikipedia for just a moment. Following an age of conflict between the races of men, elves, dwarves, and orcs that destroyed towns and cities and left the land decimated. I'm guessing this must be in the instruction manual that I don't have because this seems awfully specific. Let me continue. The land was left decimated and impoverished until the mysterious Watcher came and settled in the tower. The Watcher withdrew the power of magic, leaving remnants only in artifacts created before his arrival, and cast a spell on the 4 kings. Then he spoke in prophecy. Where there is chaos, there will be order. Where discord, harmony will flourish. From the south will come a hero to conquer the land and unite the crowns. Where there were fragments, there will be a whole. From this, a new age will begin. mighty ambitious, and fairly well received. It looks as though Battlemaster got mostly scores in the 70s and 80s, with only one reviewer pegging it so low as to go to 58%. So let's see how Wikipedia describes this Zap review that gave it the low score. It was criticized for having too little depth and too little tactical meat. Interesting take. I don't know if I played it long enough to decide it has too little depth, although I do feel like at times there's too little action. You go long periods in between running into any of these enemies. You've got a radar on the map that sort of indicates where they are, but you've either got a whole lot of combat going on or absolutely nothing going on, and you're just wandering around aimlessly. It's not like the game even tells you where to go. You're just supposed to be like, figure it out. And I know that that's a contentious point of debate about game design, whether you should be too helpful or not helpful at all. But I think a little more help would have been appropriate for Battlemaster. I don't think the instruction manual would have had a map saying go here and go there. So I'm not saying the manual would make any difference in this case. I'm just saying something other than here's a cave, go in. Like, is this cave taking me in the right direction? Are there any signs that indicate I'm going in the right direction? Can you give me some sort of clue here what I'm doing? And this whole parlay thing, I know I can see it and select it on the menu, but I've never found any indication of other humans or other creatures that are interested in parlaying. They either attack me or I attack them. Nobody ever entreats me to parlay, as they would say. So I feel like there's a lot going on here that could be improved upon and made into a greater whole. For example, this area with these mine carts, if you could interact with them in some way, if you could move them around or use them to ram into enemies, or if you could jump in it and ride the rails from one area to a next area, that would be helpful. If it gave you more to do than just walking around on your own 2 feet and killing things that are trying to kill you. I mean, yippity skippity. So much fun. The music is not exactly lighting my world on fire. And you can tell that this was originally a PC game. I guess the only way I can put it is if you played things like King's Quest or Wizardry or Ultima. You know, there's that certain squared off, tiled off adventure game style where you're moving from one tile to the next and the enemies are moving from one tile to the next, where things aren't like necessarily roaming around as sprites, if you know what I mean. This definitely has that PC game feeling, which is a bad thing inherently in and of itself. It's a style choice, and it was done for this game when it first came out on computers, and they carried that style over to the Sega Genesis. But I like a little more free-flowing scrolling in a top-down isometric game, more like The Legend of Zelda and less like this, because the squared-off style, it can be lived with, but it can also be a little jerky when it moves from one side to the other, top to down, left to right. And it can also be a little underwhelming visually. It's not wowing me in any respect. So I suppose if I was going to score it on this 0 to 100% scale, I'd fall somewhere in the like 60 to 70% scale, maybe 75. It definitely got more interesting here when I started to find some items that I could equip or eat, which gave it a little more excitement. It made it a little more like a Final Fantasy style role-playing game where I actually get to make creative choices about how to best proceed but then it teases me with these barrels that aren't destructible. Again, you're just traversing this land. You can't interact with anything except to either kill or be killed. And it's not like I didn't try. I used A, B, and C. I either hit something with a club, or shoot magic or arrows, or I select the menu, which is the C button. You can't jump over anything. You can't move anything. You can't activate anything. Or at least I haven't found that you can. You just wander from one desolate place to the next. Maybe this gets better if you do the whole forming a squad and rallying the troops thing. There may be more depth to this than I'm giving it credit for. But I suspect that the obscurity of this game would probably be a result of the fact that it was meant mostly for computers and was quickly ported over to Genesis to take advantage of the popularity of the system at the time. Like, here's a whole new platform we can sell this game on. We'll just port it as it looks and release it as it is and get what we can out of it by putting it on another system. Loose copies are only $10 though, so if you're looking for something new, something different, perhaps give it a shot. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. As always, thank you for watching.